Shauna, could we have roll call, please?
Thank you. Director Harris?
Here.
Director Laliotis?
Here.
Vice President Bender?
Here.
The record will note that Director Aguera and President Finn are absent.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, you want to lead us tonight? Nice.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Okay. Mr. B-Dub, any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes, staff would like to pull 2 items from the consent calendar. Upon further review, would like an opportunity to discuss them in further detail. So consent item number 9 and item number 10, we'd like to pull for further discussion.
Got it. Noted. I will do that when we get there. Great, thank you. Okay, public comment. Any public comments on any matter not on the agenda tonight?
No,
Okay,
Mr. President.
thank you. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Now on to director update. Director Harris? Nope. Laliotis?
Just a quick update. I attended the coffee talk with council members Zabriskie and Klofstad with regards to town reach codes. So it was a very informative meeting for me. So also, they discussed the process of what they're looking at for reach codes and what the public process they're considering to go through the evaluation. So it was a very informative process, so I encourage the public to get out and be part of some of those coffee talks that's going on in town, so. And then also, just as a community fun fact, I attended the Follies the other day, and it was very, very entertaining, as usual. So thanks to everyone in the community who helped put it on and participated. It was a fun event, and good to get back out and see everyone and be part of the community and having fun. So thank you.
Nice.
I did remember something.
Got it. All right, go
Sorry. I also attended the Follies. It was really fun to watch it. And then last night I also attended the airport information open house on the new runway that they're proposing. So it was just, once again, it was nice to be part of the community and see the options out there. And I encourage everybody to take a look at the website and just become educated on what they're looking at and what they're proposing. So it was good.
All right. And I had the pleasure of meeting 3 apprentices last week and saying hi to Dan. I had a wind event and just wanted to say it was a great experience working with the PUD on fixing the panel that got ripped off my father-in-law's cabin last week, or 2 weeks ago. So the crews were awesome. They did a good job, and I want to just say thank you to that whole process. They really do take their jobs seriously and had a great time out there and cranked it out, super knowledgeable, and was really appreciative, so thank you. All right, that's it for my updates and all our updates. GM Wright, any updates from you tonight?
Yeah, thank you. Once a quarter, we like to do a little bit more detailed updates from the GM office, so bear with me. We have a lot of events going on, a lot of things in play right now, so wanted to give the board and the community some updates on a few items. So with respect to our water utility, we are going to have a workshop on May 18th, our next regularly scheduled board meeting, that's really going to be focused on all things water. We've done a few workshops already with some of the strategic initiatives that are really more focused on some of the electric initiatives. But in May, later on this month, we'll have a workshop that includes some information on the recent executive order to reestablish drought regulations and how that will impact our community. That will be, in partner or combined with some refreshing and reacquainting ourselves with our water shortage contingency plan and some of those different tiers and how they apply to our community. We'll have some updates on the annual report from the Martis Valley Groundwater Basin. That's our work with North Star Community Services District and Placer County Water and our consultant GEI. And then our annual favorite, the Consumer Confidence Report. So we'll touch a little bit back on water quality, what water quality means in our community here in this basin, and then really try to explore a little bit more in detail what the state initiative of conservation as a way of life, what that means for us in terms of water loss performance standards, how it will impact our customers, and some of the potential regulations that are coming out. There are a lot of draft orders out there that we'll have a little bit more understanding of at the end of the month, and some of them will need to be implemented here very shortly. In terms of water usage data here in the community, I have a quick graphic. Really want to draw your attention to the lower half of the graphic here in the blue. We have kind of I'll read it because it's kind of small print there, but the first quarter of 2022, we're seeing an actual reduction in some of the water usage compared to the previous years, but really what we're gauged against is the baseline in 2013. And so we're still, every winter, the district does very well in terms of its water reduction in the winter months. And really what that is driven by that, I think nearly 60% of our summer usage is irrigation-based. And so therein lies our challenges as we enter into the new drought regulation this summer. In terms of what these metrics actually mean, they're probably mostly weather-related. We had relatively cool winter, not a lot of precipitation, but in terms of water usage and landscape irrigation beginning here in Truckee, we haven't really seen that kick off too much yet. Current projects, construction projects related to the water. We have 2 items this evening that the board will have an opportunity to review: the West River Street pedestrian bridge pipeline and the update on the CEQA report for the Pioneer Trail pipeline project. That's the project connecting Pioneer Trail with Northwoods. And then we have our annual pipeline replacement project. That is, we had a pre-con earlier this afternoon. Staff met with the contractors and we're beginning that project here very shortly. Just to remind the board and the community, the 3 sections of that project are in Tahoe Donner. The contractor will begin at Bullpine and Donner Trail. That's here at the lower end of Northwoods. They'll begin here, I think, in the next week or so. Public notification is out there. We have some, for lack of a better term, sandwich boards and public notification out there. We've worked with the Tahoe Donner Homeowners Association. There will be some traffic impacts over the summer. The other project later this summer is Swiss Lane. And then we also have over on Copenhagen. So this is our annual pipeline replacement project. This is independent from the Pioneer Trail project and the pedestrian bridge.
Brian, can you remind me of the contractor's name on that project?
The contractor this year is a C&D Contractors.
That's
They're out of Grass Valley.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Neil. On the electric utility side, energy use data, we have some promising first quarter data. We have about a 4% increase in energy usage year over year. And we've had some favorable energy rates, but that's due in large part because we're in the first quarter of winter and we've had some favorable resources in terms of wind energy and early hydro. We will keep tabs on and report back to the district during Joe Horvath's annual power purchase review and our forecasting. We talked about some exposure in terms of the The Red Mesa Solar Project has significant delays due to supply chain with infrastructure development and our concerns with some of the kind of sustainability across the year for our small hydro generation. So we'll keep tabs on how those impact the overall cost of energy for the district. The first quarter is favorable, so that's a good start, but we do, have concerns, and we'll continue to monitor the rest of 2022. Construction projects on the electric side, pole replacement project, got a report out from Joe and the line crew. I believe we're ahead of schedule for this year. We're doing quite well in terms of pole replacement. These are poles that have either been identified and through our inspection process as at risk or failing. And so it's good to get those out of the system before we have significant wind events or other types of damage. So crews doing a great job of staying ahead of that. And that really is indicative of the work that the line crews and our engineering staff have been doing to coordinate those efforts. We also have the undergrounding and overhead realignment project in partnership with the town's Church Street extension. This is over at the trail loop, the railway loop. There's a planned roundabout and road connection from Church Street over to Glenshire Drive that requires some realignment and undergrounding of our overhead facilities. So you may see the crews out there now. They've been out there the last few days beginning that project. And then the rest for both water and power has been new construction. If you drive around, there is a lot of new construction out there, and our crews have been working diligently to stay on top of those. You've heard us give updates and reports out on utility delinquent billing or arrearages. We still have, let me pull up another graphic here. And I'm going to kind of draw attention to the main chart to the left of the screen. This is our bar chart over the last 2 years in our COVID pandemic experience. We're currently at about $480,000 in past due delinquencies with the district for both water and power. And this comes after, the receipt and application of a little over $200,000 in pandemic relief. And so arrearages and delinquent billing continue to be a challenge. And staff is working, tirelessly on trying to establish payment plans, creative billing plans, and we've put out notifications that the district will begin shut-off processes, so termination of service due to past due delinquent billing. And that's scheduled at this time to, really start taking place in June and July. The challenge here is we've had some residential customers with extremely high delinquent electric utility bills, in the order of $11,000, $12,000 in arrearages. We have some businesses locally, and so we're working with them. But at a certain point, we need to get those caught up to date and brought back on schedule. So we'll work with those in terms of creative billing plans. But staff is working to get these arrearages back down into a manageable realm there. Outage communication. We did an update a few months back on staff's efforts to develop and deploy a comprehensive outage management system and notification system. I'm happy to report that our IT team has been working very hard over the last several months, the last 6 to 8 months, on repairing and updating our GIS systems. This is kind of a twofold effort. One, to bring back and enhance the critical applications that are built upon the GIS platform, but also in preparation for our new and improved outage management notification and outage management system. The plan at the moment is to work with NISC and their engineering team in development with a staff training in June and a live deployment in July for an integrated NISC and our GIS system that provides really tailored and customized notification for electric customers, and then at some point we can expand that into our water as well. There's definitely a separation in terms of water and utility industry kind of infrastructure in terms of metering and notifications, but we're looking for opportunities that we can integrate those two and have a one-stop shop for customer notifications. So again, testing and training scheduled in June for that, with an intended launch sometime in July, hopefully early July, ahead of my next topic, which is PSOMs, our favorite topic from last year. We did some very extensive outreach, public outreach, training, education, communication. We're dusting that off again for this summer. We had some late April snowfall that really helped. I don't want to say really helped, but it to some degree helped push back the wildfire season. It will still be an early wildfire season, according to our experts in the field. Our transmission partner, NV Energy, has begun their testing for PSOM outage notification. They began that last week. Our staff will begin that as well in terms of revisiting, refreshing our communication and notification plan. We're going to drive notifications ultimately through our outage management system. Until that is fully deployed, we'll continue to push customers to our website banner for updated, detailed information. We'll continue to use Nixle as a kind of an overarching, wide-reaching notification that gives updates on the outage and hopefully direct customers and visitors back to our website so that they can get more detailed information that isn't available through Nixle.
Ryan, I have a question about that.
Sure.
So the town has gone to Code Red, which is the Nevada County emergency system. Has the PUD looked into Code Red?
I believe so. I haven't explored it, or we haven't explored it extensively. I believe Code Red is relegated to emergency services providers, and the utilities aren't necessarily concerned emergency services providers. We ran into some early challenges with that with Nixle. We believe that the use of Nixle, while it we can consider it temporary until our outage management system is fully developed, and so, rather than move on to another notification system, we are investing heavily in our comprehensive system through NISC and our GIS, and eventually probably phase out Nixle once we have kind of the subscribership and familiarity within our community. But at this point, Nixle is something we're going to continue to use until we can fully launch our OMS. Regulatory affairs, government affairs, some of the continuing topics of discussion have been advanced clean fleet. Staff is working with several of our JPA and advocacy groups in conversations and workshops with the California Air Resources Board. Our concern is there's a significant push from CARB for electrification of fleet, including our heavy fleet, our what we consider critical services and heavy equipment fleet. There's a push for electrification of that equipment. There isn't the technology available to electrify those, but there are proposed compliance deadlines that really put some of the public agencies here in our community at risk. So staff is looking to work in collaboration with our neighboring agencies. This affects other local utilities, the towns, the counties. And so our concern is in our particular environment of the Sierra Nevada and our harsh winters that this puts the premature electrification of that heavy equipment puts some of our operations at risk. And so staff is working diligently with our JPAs and advocacy groups to have a voice at the state level. State water law standards we'll cover in the May 18th workshop. There's also staff is working with, again, CMUA, NCPA, and our other JPAs on the new clean energy standards. There's a proposal in updating those. We've heard a lot of discussion and our targets with the 60% by 2030. There's a new standard being developed for 90% by 2035 and 100%, I believe, by 2040 or 2045, one of those two dates. So they've created additional standards beyond the original 2030 standard that have some urgency there. So we're staying in the loop on that. Strategic initiatives. The Broadband GM Task Force continues to collaborate with the district. Staff has met with them on multiple occasions already since our discussion and workshop a few months ago. The current timeline is to continue some benchmarking and industry research to get the best information. And then the task force and staff are putting together an RFP for professional consulting services to launch a scoping study and a feasibility study eventually. And so staff will bring back to the board for consideration based on the task force recommendation and staff's collaborative work with them for board approval on a scoping study to continue to pursue what the most beneficial pathway for community broadband is for the Truckee service territory. The second strategic initiative that we're spending a lot of time on is local clean generation. Had some minor updates in the past, but I'm happy to report out that we're making some progress in terms of local clean generation. Staff has been working with the town of Truckee, the airport district, and fire district on a potential local biomass project. There was a phase one scoping study done by the town and the airport on what the feasibility would be for a biomass facility that provided heat energy and potentially some additional net metering electric energy to create some local public benefit. This has gone into consideration for a phase two scoping study that would approach this biomass facility as an actual energy generation plant. And so the district has been contacted to participate in that phase two project. Really what that means for us is how does the Truckee Downer PUD provide the opportunity for a local generation facility? This would include local distribution infrastructure upgrades, some transmission agreements, a purchase power agreement. And so we're working with the group on potentially, coming up with a scoping study for the district. What would that mean? What would it take our agency to participate and really facilitate a local generation plant? It's been done in several other places, but it hasn't been done here in Truckee. And so we're going to kind of unpack that with the group and look forward to a presentation at a later date for our board. And then earlier today, we had some discussions with the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation on partnering with some grant funding on that as well. So anywhere we can get some joint participation, contribution, fund matching for this co-benefit here in the community would be a win for everyone. Something I'd like to report out to the community and the board. I know we had it in a couple of update letters, but really proud of the fact that our finance and accounting team received an Excellence in Financial Reporting Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. This is just an indicative of our continued effort to increase enhanced transparency and excellence in financial reporting. Can't thank Mike Salmon, CFO of the district, and his team, his finance manager, Melanie Reeves, and his accounting personnel, Tracy Pearson, and all the rest of the team on the great work they've done over the last year in terms of auditing and comprehensive financial reporting. Pair this with our Transparency Certificate of Excellence last year and our Diamond Level recognition in public power. This is in alignment with our strategic plan and our initiatives. Very proud of this team and this group, and we're looking forward to many more incremental steps and progress in the future. And then finally, Truckee Workforce Housing Agency. We continue to work with the group. This is a collaborative effort between the district, the airport district, the hospital, the school district, and recently the addition of the town of Truckee, Placer County, and Nevada County. And so it's really becoming a collaboration of all the major public agencies. We have a few more that may join in the future, but we're working very hard with this group. I want to give kudos and credit to the staff, Emily Vitas and her team, in terms of the work and pursuing housing opportunities for the local public workforce. This morning we were given exciting news that there's a very strong opportunity that has a lot of potential here locally for a down payment assistance program for up to $150,000 for any of the local public agency employees. This is a national program that local rural workforce housing projects would be eligible for. And so I think this is a huge win for giving an opportunity for local workforce to be introduced into the local housing market. And we'll continue to work with pursuing our own housing assistance programs, local rental agreements, master leasing. We have identified several 2-3 bedroom homes here in the community where the owner may not have normally wanted to enter the rental market, but if a potential tenant was backed by a local public agency with some stability there in employment and backing up a funding, they're willing to enter that and offer that. So these are win-wins for everyone. And this isn't really district operational related, but we also are working with and have worked with Nevada County. We have been identified and approved as a local polling location for the 2022 local general elections. I believe the district has participated in this in the past several years back. It's been a while, but for 2022 will be a local and safe place for the community to conduct their polling and voting activities. And this is a personal note. I know that Kim talked about, or Director Harris, spoke about the airport project. I want to take an opportunity to thank Kevin Smith. He did announce he's moving on from his general manager position with the airport. He has been a tremendous asset to our local collaboration with public agencies. He did tremendous work with the Truckee Workforce Housing Agency, some of our local green initiatives, and is truly a collaborator and a champion of public success. So I wish him the best of luck and success in wherever his next adventure is, and job well done, Kevin.
Thank you, Brian. That was a good one. All right, that takes us to the consent calendar tonight. We are going to pull items 9 and 10. So we have on the docket items 8, 11, and 12. Is there any public comment on those 8, 11, and 12 items?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing none, any comments or questions from the directors?
No, the only thing is in one of the things on the election, it refers to, I think, 3 positions where it's only 2 positions.
Yeah, it's on page 7 of 421 in the board book. Just a minor typo, says 3 instead of 2. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. I move to, is it okay to move? Okay. I don't want to jump the gun here. I move to approve consent calendar items number 8, 11, and 12 as presented by staff with that minor change.
Perfect.
Second?
Motion and a second. Shauna, roll call?
Thank you, Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
President Benner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, takes us to item 9, consideration of an agreement with the town of Truckee regarding installation of a water pipeline as part of the Truckee River Legacy Trail Phase 4 project.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Excuse me. I've got a conflict of interest. I need to recuse myself. The proposed reimbursement agreement is a 3-party agreement between the district, the town, and the Truckee-Donner Land Trust. The Truckee-Donner Land Trust is a client of my firm. I have not advised or worked with the district or the land trust on this agreement. So just for the record, but I will recuse myself and leave the room.
Got it. Thank you,
Thanks.
Steve.
Good evening. This is item number 9, consideration of a reimbursement agreement with the town of Truckee for the Truckee River Legacy Trail Phase 4 project. I think as everyone's aware, the Truckee River runs northeasterly through our service area, and that presents a significant barrier to vehicular traffic and the provision of utility services. 2 of our 3 largest groundwater wells are located to the south of the river. However, the majority of our customers are north of the river, and we do anticipate construction of additional wells to the south of the river in the future. We have 2 pipes that cross the river in the downtown Truckee area. One of them is located within the existing vehicle bridge, and that was constructed in 1992. And we have a second pipe that's located immediately west of that vehicle bridge, and that is actually buried beneath the riverbed. And that was done in 1980.
Interesting.
So the town of Truckee is currently undertaking the Truckee River Legacy Trail Phase 4 project. And this involves a paved recreation trail along the south side of the river. And that's going to connect the hilltop area to State Route 89 at West River Street. And the project also includes a pedestrian bridge across the Truckee River at Mill Street, which is about 1,100 feet west of Bridge Street, and it's adjacent to the former Nevada County Public Works Yard that has been torn down, and also across the street would be the Small Little Flyers Depot petroleum facility. So that's the general location we're discussing. The district has been working with the town and the Truckee Donner Land Trust to install a water pipe across the river on this new pedestrian bridge. And this pipe would allow us to improve our water system reliability and redundancy because of our limited abilities to move water across the river. So outlined here, you can kind of see in red, that is the overall trail project. Again, starting at the hilltop area, running over towards West River Street and 89. Eventually, I believe the overall goal is that the trail will be picked up, carried south along the Truckee River, and eventually tie into the existing trail that ends at Squaw Valley. So I think that's kind of a bigger, longer-term project, but that's the ultimate goal of this trail facility. In terms of what we're looking at, you can see in blue the water pipeline that's outlined just very much at the kind of the eastern end of the project. It'll tie into an existing pipe at South River Street, run a little ways to the southwest, cross the river, and then tie into an existing pipe on Riverside Drive. Loomis and Associates was selected by the town of Truckee to be the lead designer for this trail project, and the district contracted directly with Loomis to design the water pipeline connections on either side of the bridge to connect into these existing pipes. And we have been working with the bridge designer to include the water pipeline in the bridge design itself. The engineer's estimate for the overall project, the bridge, the water pipe, and all of the trail work was about $8.2 million, and the water pipeline portion was estimated at about $450,000. The town began advertising for bids in February of this year. The bid opening was held on April 15th. The apparent low bidder for the project was Mercer Fraser out of Eureka. They had a bid price of just below $12.4 million, and the water pipe portion was about $477,000, so pretty much in line with what we had been expecting. The major cost difference was for the bridge construction itself. That bid came in at about $5.5 million actual versus a $2.0 million estimate. So we do have a draft reimbursement agreement between the district and the town of Truckee. That was included within the board packet. And just for information, there is also a cost-sharing agreement between the town and the Truckee Donner Land Trust regarding the bridge construction. And right now, that bid price is higher than the available funds from the land trust. So discussion of the project was held at the town council meeting on April 26th. 4 options were presented to the town council. I'll kind of briefly go through them. First of which, award the contract to the low bidder and work with the contractor to develop a less costly bridge option. A second option was to reject all bids and rebid the project without the bridge. They would then proceed with a revised bridge design to be bid separately. Option 3 was accept the bid as submitted with the town of Truckee covering the additional costs. And option 4 was accept the bid as submitted with the town of Truckee and the Land Trust revising their cost-sharing agreement. I had a recent discussion with town staff after the council meeting, and it sounds like the favored approach is a combination of the first and fourth options. So they are looking to develop a less expensive bridge with the contractor while also revising the cost-sharing agreement with the Land Trust. And it is expected that a recommendation for action will be presented to the town council at the May 10 meeting. In terms of fiscal impact to the district, based on the low bid, if that is how we move forward, we have a construction cost of about $441,000, some additional administrative costs of about $35,000. Adding a 10% contingency puts us at a construction cost of about $524,000. The district is also responsible for some portion of the design cost of the bridge to accommodate the water pipeline. We're currently estimating that at $10,000. We have not received an invoice from the bridge designer yet. And there is an easement across the Land Trust property on the south side of the Truckee River that is needed. The cost of this easement is currently being discussed between the district and the Land Trust. So that number is still a little subject to being finalized. So overall, we're estimating a project cost of about $600,000. This project was not included in the Water Department CIP that was developed a couple of years ago. The project does qualify for facilities fees funding, and we are recommending that that is the source for this project. The balance of the water facilities fees fund on December 31st was about $2.3 million. And we do anticipate that there will be sufficient facilities fees to cover the cost of this project. If that's not the direction the board would like us to proceed, the alternative funding source would be from the fiscal year 2023 budget, which does include about $3.9 million for pipeline replacement and new pipeline construction. So the recommendation before you is to authorize the general manager to execute a reimbursement agreement with the town of Truckee for construction of a water pipeline as part of the Truckee River Legacy Trail Phase 4 project with an overall cost not to exceed $600,000.
Nice, thank you. Is there any public comment on consent item number 9?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. No public comment. Any comments or questions from the directors? Tony, or
No, go ahead.
Kim?
Is it on? Neil, I wanted to thank you for this presentation. This was actually one of the items that I wanted to pull myself, so I think it, with the new information, I'm glad to hear that the town is still wanting to move forward with it, as well as the Land Trust. I guess the question that I had is, how did you come up with the kind of estimate for the easement on the Land Trust?
I'll admit that's a little bit of a ballpark. As I indicated, we're still having discussions with them, so that number definitely has not been finalized at this point.
Okay, so the amount of, it's, what is around $60,000-$70,000?
That's what we're currently
Okay.
anticipating.
Which is fine. I mean, I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in, funding it and everything. So I don't know if there's a creative way that we should have you come back with the actual numbers to approve them, or I don't know what typically happens with something like that, with the estimate like that. So that was just the only kind of observation that I had, but I appreciate you updating us with what the current information was.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I did meet with John with the Land Trust. We've had some preliminary discussions. I think, easement agreements are there's not an exact correlation, but it's kind of like, property negotiations and really what the utility is of the district, the public interest, but also, as you pointed out, Director Harris, fairly compensating for that access and utility. So we'll come back to the board with an item. It's definitely going to be something beyond the GM approval threshold, so we would bring it back to the board for consideration.
Great.
Just a quick question. I assume our infrastructure on the West River side is adequate for making a difference with this pipeline crossing?
Yeah, it's not ideal, but again, we can definitely make it work, and in an emergency, if we do lose one of the other two existing pipelines, we will certainly make it work.
Certainly, yeah, as usual, and any connection will help, but I foresee other projects in our future.
Right.
No, it's fine, and reliability, redundancy, in this day and age with everything we're going to be dealing with, coming with fires and whatnot, so the more water we can move, the better off we are, so I appreciate staff's working with multiple agencies to affect this project and take a cool project and actually turn it into some benefit for our ratepayers as well, so thank you very much.
Excellent. Ditto on those thoughts. So thank you. Great coordination, collaboration, and is there a motion?
I'll move.
Before we do that, I don't know if I need to identify that I am an employee of the town of Truckee, but in the department where I work, I'm in human resources, which is not in the engineering department where this is coming from.
Yeah, I think a similar determination was made on another project with the town, so I think that would be appropriate.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I second.
Shauna, roll call, please.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Director Loliotis?
Yes.
President Minner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks, Neil.
All right. Takes us to item number 10. Back to Neil. Steve's coming in. Consideration of approving the CEQA initial study mitigated negative declaration for the Pioneer Trail Pipeline and Pump Station Project.
So Vice President Bender, staff has pulled this item for further discussion through our review. We've realized and identified that our recommendation didn't fully cover the requirements under code and regulation. So we're going to present a new, more fully vetted recommendation, and Council Gross may have some additional comments or clarification for this. We also have Helix Environmental Planning represented here who can answer any questions on the CEQA process, as well as Neil Kaufman, our water system engineer, who is the project manager on this. So we do have a revised or amended recommendation. Council Gross, do you want to add any clarification on this?
Good evening. I think once you see the there it is up there. It's a mouthful, but it will be clear. This language and these findings are required under the CEQA guidelines. And the guidelines require you, as a condition of approving a mitigated negative deck as the lead agency, to make certain findings that there are no significant environmental effects, and that the MND and the initial study reflect your independent judgment and analysis. And so that is incorporated into this recommended action. So if after we've conducted this part of the meeting tonight and you've received the presentation, you've considered the record in its entirety, including the IS and the MND and the public comment that has been received, if you want to proceed, then my recommendation is up there on the screen for you. Be happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
If you'd like, staff can read the recommendation into the public record, or you can take that challenge on as your.
I just
your-
read it quietly on my own.
That'll come later. You know, after the presentation, after you've considered the matter, if you're inclined to adopt the MND and approve the project, then this is the proposed action that you would take. So that is the motion that would be made.
Got it.
Okay?
So could we pull a Laliotis, just say staff recommendation, or no, we have to read it?
You can pull a Laliotis on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty clear now.
You want me to read it?
No, not yet.
Is that a technical term for the minutes, pull the loliotis?
I'm happy to read.
So,
That would please Council Gross.
Board of Directors, we do not have a formal presentation on this item. It was pulled kind of 11th hour. We do have our consultant who can answer any questions related to the CEQA review itself. And like I said, Neil is the project manager. The entire report was included as an attachment to the board agenda. We're happy to answer any questions. We did have one public comment from local tribal representation to ensure that considerations for archaeological exposures were there. Neil, do you want to kind of comment on that?
Yeah, so it's a rather typical and normal expectation of the Native American tribes that we monitor and look out for potential Native American, what was the term, I believe?
Tribal cultural resources?
Tribal and cultural resources. That already was included within the initial study prior to the public circulation, so it was something that we had already anticipated and taken care of. And they basically had just responded to ensure that it was in there. That's the only comment that we had received. And just for clarification, the title bar here on this slide is incorrect. We are dealing with the Pioneer Trail Pipeline and not the Round Hill Tank Project.
Got it. Is there any additional public comment beyond the United Auburn Indian Community letter?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, great.
And you said you have a presentation on this?
No, unfortunately, we don't at this time. We did, the Pioneer Trail Project has been presented at a couple of prior meetings.
Yeah.
You know, in discussing where the project was, when the contract was awarded to Helix, and we have other contracts that have been previously awarded on this project related to the pump station design and design assistance associated with the pipeline itself. So this project has been presented to the board previously. And just a quick kind of calendar informational item. The pipeline portion of the project is currently out to bid. We're having a pre-bid conference tomorrow. We have a bid opening scheduled for May 19th, and we are currently anticipating presenting a recommendation for award at the June 1st board meeting.
Okay. I wanted to note that this item was, I think, 345 pages. That's a lot of information, so thank you for putting together such a comprehensive report. I do appreciate it, so it is a lot of work there.
Just, so there were no, during the public review comment or process period, there were no other public comments received other than potentially this document?
Correct. The only comment received during the public comment process was from the United Indian Tribe.
And staff and our consultant feel like the items brought up in this letter are currently and accurately reflected in the current document as presented?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. President, Directors, Robert Edgerton from Helix Environmental Planning. Is it all right if I just speak?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, the letter, the district coordinated with the United Auburn Indian Community in advance of the document going for public under Assembly Bill 52. That's government-to-government consultation. At that time, UAIC identified their requested information or mitigation measure language for unanticipated discovery of tribal cultural resources. This information was rolled into a mitigation measure into the document, and then during public comment, they just gave this letter back to the district again. So it's a little bit redundant on their part, but bases have been covered.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay.
Motion? Anyone?
Do you want me to? I'll read it. I like reading.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sometimes we have
Okay.
to practice.
I'll move staff's recommendation, which is pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15074. The Board of Directors of the Truckee Donner Public Utility District, hereby known as the district, hereby finds that the mitigated negative declaration, including the project initial study, hereinafter collectively referred to as the IS/MND, for the Pioneer Trail Pipeline and Pump Station Project, has been completed in compliance with CEQA. The district has reviewed and considered the information contained in the ISMND and the comments received during the public review process prior to approving the project. The district hereby finds that the ISMND reflects the independent judgment and analysis of the district, adopts these findings, and concurrently adopts the ISMND and approves the project. Period.
Nice.
I second what he said.
We have a motion and a second, and a fully read recommendation. Thank you.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Director Laliotis?
Yes.
President Bender?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, consultant from Helix.
Thank you, yeah. Just have to get my
I
bearings.
had to scroll a lot during this review of this board packet.
Okay, we are on item number 13, workshop, new debt issuance. And our accounting numbers guy is here.
Thought we just got rid of debt. We're just going to take on more?
Yeah.
All right, good evening, Vice President Bender and directors of the board. This is agenda item number 13, workshop on new debt issuance. We do have two guests in attendance to help me with this presentation on attending via audio Zoom. Shauna, can we do an audio check to see if they're able to speak or?
I can see that they're on and they're part of it and they broke through earlier. That's what Jeff was laughing at.
Oh.
I'm going to get started. Thank you for participating in this workshop, everyone, and we'll get started. So as the directors may recall, and everyone in the room may recall that was here, the 2022 budget approved in the fall did include some new debt issuance, $6 million for electric and $14.8 million for water. And this workshop is to provide additional information and background regarding those debt issuances in 2022. As everyone's aware, both electric and water have 10-year capital improvement plans. The total for electric is $72 million, and for water is $88 million. These capital improvement plans are directly linked to our strategic plan, which includes, very integrated with that, particularly in relation to resiliency and reliability of our systems, both electric and water. A couple of financial metrics that help with analyzing systems. These are truly financial specific metrics. They're not an engineering assessment of every single asset and age and condition of the assets, but it's a mathematical calculation from an accounting finance standpoint that you can do on your system. And this is one of the, both of these are both metrics presented here on this page are two things that the rating analysts look at when they're going to rate our potential debt issuance. One of those is plant life cycle. It's a ratio of the age of the plant in relation to the remaining life calculation based on depreciation and accumulated depreciation and your rate of depreciation for electric and or water as applicable. The electric system is for 2021 is right at 35%. It was 6 or 8 years ago, it was in the low 30s. And so it's upticking slightly, but it is not at what's considered an elevated level. Water has officially hit an elevated level of plant life cycle ratio. Not a super warning signal, but it is approaching. It's hitting that stage in life, the water system, for indication of need to reinvest. Another indicator is how much you spend in capital expenditures each year in relation to depreciation expense. So are you gaining or are you losing against your assets that continually depreciate? So all of our assets, both water and electric and any other business and in your personal lives, they depreciate. Other than land, they depreciate over time, whether you're recording that or not. And so it's an indicator of your capital investment in relation to how fast things are depreciating. Electric has been investing slightly higher than the depreciation rate. Water, the last 3 years, has underspent as far as capital investment goes in relation to depreciation expense. Part of that is the pause, a big pause for a lot of companies related to the pandemic. Anyway, let's see. So just to keep things even, you need to spend as much in depreciation in capital expenditure each year. So as I mentioned, the planned new debt issuances are part of the approved budget and financial plan, which was financial master plan, which was included in that budget process. The debt issuances are in alignment with the strategic plan objectives and goals. It's important to note that for the electric side, after June 30th, there will be no debt on electric's books. So the electric side holds the pension obligation bonds, side fund debt, and that final payment is June 30th of this year. So yay. The electric capital replacement fund balance as of 12/31 was $11.2 million. That number was bolstered with a change in policy from the specific operating reserve being 50% of operating expenses excluding the rate reserve. So the rate reserve is for the purchase power, so we excluded purchase power from the total cost of operating expenses and shifted those dollars into capital reserve because that's the intention of those funds at the end of the day. Water long-term debt balance in 2010 was $39 million. It is now at the end of 2021, $11 million. So a significant reduction over time at a very healthy level currently. And the water capital replacement fund balance is only $1 million. And I do use the word only because it's not as large as it should be for the size enterprise that the water operation is. This debt issuance will help with that. The district has assembled a team over the last few months, a new debt issuance team of specialists that specialize in this, both for districts and utilities in general. That includes Stradling, Yoka, Carlson, and Roth. The lead on that is Davis Casnocha. He has helped the district with other debt issuances in the past here at the district. Municipal Advisor Fieldman, the lead there is Anna Sarabian. I believe she's on the call or with us today via Zoom. The underwriter is Rick Brandis, and with Brandis Talman, a division of Oppenheimer, and Rick is also on the call this evening. And then, of course, District Council Steve Gross is heavily involved in this as well as the team of operational staff here at the district. New debt issuance, as I mentioned, is consistent with the budget and the financial plan. It bolsters our capital funds and enables us to execute on the capital improvement plans while conserving cash reserves. Long-term debt issuance is a method of leveraging funds. So a little bit of debt is good, particularly in a utility environment that is heavily capital intensive. And that capital is for stuff that lasts a fairly long time. It's not stuff that lasts 5 years. We don't need to issue debt for a 3 or 4 year asset or a vehicle, but these are things that last 25, 30, 40 plus years, depending on when we ask Neil. But some debt to leverage that and spread that cost over time is a good thing, and spreads the cost for our customers. Part of issuing debt now versus later also locks in an interest rate for 30 years, and we'll get into that more in a little bit. If and when we do issue new debt, we have 36 months to spend 85% of the proceeds, so 3 years from the date of issue. And we have plenty of projects in the pipeline and planned in our capital improvement plans to complete that, expend those funds in that time frame. Let's see. This is I like this chart. Of course, I created it. Let's see. So the blue bar is the black bar is the existing debt that's on the books for water. And in the dead center there is 2022, and on the far right is 2026. So the black bar is the existing debt service. You can see how it's come down. You can't see the black bar on the left because it's being covered up by the blue bar. So in past years, obviously there was, I'm projecting forward, so the black bar is the actual debt, and then the blue bar would be if and when we issued new water debt at the current levels that I'll get into in a minute, where it would take water's debt, which is still well below where it was on the far left is 2017. So this new debt issuance does not flip water upside down and make them highly leveraged and highly reliant on debt service and overextended, so to speak. It puts another layer of modest debt back on the books for water. Moving on to some other metrics that are important to understand. This chart is San Francisco Bay Area electricity CPI. And you can see a couple things just to point out, the shaded vertical columns are recession periods, according to The Economist at Fred. And there's a small shaded bar there in 2020 when the pandemic hit. You can also see on this chart on the far right, the 1 year, that really big spike is the electricity rates in the Bay Area have gone up 24% in the last year. March of 2022 versus March 2021 have gone up 24%. In the US, not in the chart, but in the information here in the center is the 1 year rate for electricity is 11% CPI, and the 10-year is 2%. Here at the district, the 10-year growth rate is 1.3%. The 5 year is just under 3%, And as the board is aware and others, the average increase for 2022 was 8.5% approved in December. This is one of the things that the rating analysts will be looking at is, do we have, how have we done with electric rates? Are they competitive?
How does this affect one or the other? I mean, is this only investor-owned utilities, or does this also reflect community-owned utilities?
I haven't researched that, but it is a CPI metric for the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward. So I would assume it includes both types of utilities as applicable in that region. That certainly PG&E would be a dominant player, I would assume. Stephen may know better than I, but yeah, I would assume it includes both. We do have economic average rates for NCPA members, those kind of things. So. This chart is water, sewer, and trash services for the United States, not for the Bay Area. The Bay Area, Fred does not provide a number figure for the specific for that market that I could find. The 5-year growth rate is 3.5. The district's growth rate is 5.2. The 10-year for the district is 4%, and the 10-year for the United States is 4%. So a little bit more in alignment there. Talking about ratings, the important thing on this chart is that this center column for California, the dominant rating by Fitch is AA minus, which is this tallest bar on the top. And then that's for electric California utilities. And then for California water and sewer utilities, this is the rating spread, quite a few in AA plus and AA. Shifting from Fitch to S&P, which will be our rating agency here shortly, is this is their chart for U.S. municipal water and sewer sector. And 40% are in the AA minus and A plus categories. And the district was last rated in 2015 at a AA minus. And we're optimistic that we will obtain that rating again here shortly. I'm optimistic that electric will have a higher rating since there's no debt on the books. But moving on to some other important aspects of debt issuance is understanding what's happening with the economy. I'm going to first touch on inflation. Unless you're living in a closet, you would be aware of the current inflation rates that are out there. This is the United States CPI over the last 31 years, and inflation through March of 2022. When you look back to March 31 years ago to actually get a compounded annual growth rate, that is a 2.4% rate. So over the 30 years to March 2022, CPI is 2.4 as a measure of inflation. The 1-year rate which is the headline every month, is 8.5%. Be that as it may, in relation to the current inflation environment that we have, I have recommended with the team to up our planned debt issuance amounts slightly to reflect the the high probability that the planned 6 million and 14.8 million would potentially need to be higher based on what inflation has done. It does not dramatically change the overall debt service levels. Keeping in the economic theme, this is GDP for the last 10 quarters or so. And the this last quarter, March 2022, was a negative 1.4, annual rate of 1.4, so it was negative for the quarter. And that made a lot of news. And it relates to what the feds are going to do, the FOMC is going to do with interest rates. And so they're looking at that and also looking at things like consumer spending and business investment. And so when they dived into this most recent GDP number, the important thing to know is that consumer spending and business investments were very strong and robust. It was the trade deficit that drove down the GDP number. And so the feds fully understood that and continued with their mantra that they would likely to raise rates on May 4th, which is today. And they did do such, and they raised the interest rates by a half a point or 150 basis points. Biggest hike in one session since the year 2000. The markets reacted very favorably to that, but it is an interest rate increase nonetheless. This is the history of municipal bond yields, 30-year bonds over the last 30 years. And you can see that the last year or so, until really just a month or so ago, we were at record lows in interest rates. It has spiked in the last month, and it will spike some with the federal action taken today, FOMC's action today. But even if it gets to the next bar up from where the far right orange is now, that would put it at 4%. That would be a full 1% change. There's a lot of interplay between, I want to call them gamblers, but it's actually, the interest rate folks, and as far as anticipating what the federal market's going to do. And so some of this current spike, a lot of this current spike in interest rates is in anticipation of what was going to happen today. I had a note somewhere. I'll recall my note. I believe some of the commentary today, which in part why the market reacted the way it did, was that the Chairman Powell was pretty candid that there was another 50 basis point planned at the next session, but not 0.75 or greater type percentages. And I may be misquoting exactly, but it was that there are more planned increases, but nothing more dramatic than what was done on May 4th. What does that all mean? So we took a stab with Fieldman and Brandis's help. We did some analysis on what $15 million in debt looks like over a 30-year period if interest rates now versus a year from now are 50 basis points higher. And if they're 50 points higher, it's $200,000 favorable in taking on interest cost perhaps a year early if we issued now versus waiting a year with 50 basis point higher interest rate, because that 50 basis point interest rate is for 30 years versus taking on debt in the near term now in 2022. If you delay, it's still more favorable to issue the debt now if interest rates go up 50 basis points. Then we took the same thing and did it, well, what if they go up 100 basis points or 1%? And that net present value was $1 million in savings over the 30 years as opposed to waiting a year with 1% higher interest rate. I do not have a complete crystal ball, nor does anyone else in this room. Let's see. So no direct financial impact related to this workshop today. I mentioned leveraging before, and we'll be in full compliance with all of the district code matters related to debt issuance and our coverages with these planned debt issuances. And our current timeline is to present for action at the May 18th board meeting. That is essentially some resolutions authorizing debt issuance. Very soon thereafter, we do the ratings show, and information is received, and we get a rating, and pricing is scheduled for June 8th and 9th, with a closing June 30th. Questions? What did I miss? What was confusing or not? Concerns?
Thank you, Mike. Is there any public input on this workshop?
No, President Bender.
Got it.
The consultants are in audio if anybody has any questions.
Oh, say that again?
The consultants are in the
Oh,
air.
excellent. They're,
Here, here.
they're here.
They were on the screen for a while.
Nice, excellent. Any questions, comments from the directors?
It's a lot to bite off and chew, that's for sure. No, Mike, thank you very much for the presentation. I asked my questions actually, I have one other question that I did write down. So you mentioned that we basically have 3 years to spend the money. What if there's issues like supply, supply chain issues? You know, where we're not getting supplies, like is there ever an opportunity to extend the spend? Sorry, did I stump you?
No, I
ball
actually asked
question.
that very specific question to the bond counsel,
Oh, good.
and it was a very long answer.
Okay, so in a nutshell.
It is not, it would not be good. I can tell you that. So it would not be good. If I was to summarize, my sense was, you could foresee that there was potential supply chain issues, and you went ahead with it anyway. And so that would be problematic for us. There are some legal ways to incorporate extending that time frame into the offering document itself, and I can definitely tee that up for the next conversation on the 18th in advance to address whether or not that concern is mitigated.
Okay, and we've gone out to bid for a lot of the projects that we're looking to use this money for, correct?
Have.
We have, okay, so,
Pioneer Trail pipeline and the pump station is coming soon. And so there's pipeline replacement active right now. So those would all qualify as part of this debt issuance. So
you're pretty confident that we're going to have enough in projects to spend this on in the time frame that we have?
it's definitely a team effort. I know that we're all committed to the strategic plan, and we're committed to executing on the game plan that's our part of our objectives for the district, both near and long term. So, Brian, you might want to speak to that.
Yeah, this is a great point of discussion. Definitely under strong consideration for the team, because we're seeing other examples in our power generation projects through UAMPS, across the Western region. Even some of our local agency partners are having some challenges fully completing projects due to supply chain issues. The pipeline projects, the pump station projects are well underway. One of the projects that is definitely a concern for us is we've talked to the board briefly or conceptually on the second facilities building out at the Courtyard. We're working with an engineering and architecture firm right now to try to get this with a concrete timeline to present to the board for approval. That would be an example of a project that we'd be concerned with in terms of timelines. They're not unique or specific equipment. Those are simply labor and construction materials issues, and then permitting and kind of community development issues. But the rest of the project, in terms of pipeline and some of the water infrastructure, we're fairly confident we can get those projects done in a kind of an appropriate timeline.
No, great questions and super along the lines of what I was thinking of as well. Maybe to add to that a little bit is we're asking for what, roughly 15 million, or you've got 14.7 in water and 6 million in electric. So what kind of debt issuance are we talking about? Gross numbers.
That'd be 20 million.
Okay, so, and then question, like, flexibility-wise, not simply just timeline, but let's say project flexibility. Are you tied to these projects, or are we tied to expenditures for capital within our infrastructure?
Great question. I have explored that, and we're tied in the sense that the 6 million plus for electric would be electric utility specific. It would not have to be the building. There is loose enough language to do other projects, for example, a substation modernization, a grid modernization, those type things. The caveat there is, though, is that you would need to plan and execute on that project within 36 months.
Right.
And that project would need to have a useful life at or exceeding the 30 years of debt service. So you couldn't use it on a 10 million or on a $6 million project that only had a useful life. Not that you would do that, but
Understood.
a low useful life. And then the same goes for water. There's ample other projects that would qualify a laundry list of projects on the water side.
Sure.
that we
Yeah,
can.
no.
So we are not handheld to very specific projects that are identified in the upfront offering statement, as I understand it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, there's a good chunk of money that's going to be, there's a good chunk of money that's already authorized for construction in the pipeline replacement project this year. We are opening bids on the pump station and pipeline project, in less than a month?
Correct. The Pioneer Trail pipeline is scheduled for May 19 of this
Okay.
month. The pump station, is going to lag behind by about a month.
Okay, so they're two separate projects per se?
Two separate construction contracts. We're hoping to get a recommendation for award on the pump station to the board in July.
Okay. I mean, the way things have been going, the prices are probably going to be higher than what was here, so I don't foresee water being an issue, electric, but, and the last thing to that is just like you alluded to, the team aspect is, there's a lot of money to put in the ground and in the air for the next 3 years. I appreciate staff's willingness to put themselves out there because this is a lot of work in general. So I really don't have, that'd be my primary concern is really our bandwidth to execute the projects at a staff level. I did have a curious question. I know in Tahoe City, when it comes to specific water or sewer projects, we can serve as our own building department. So if we were to build an electric courtyard building, we could serve as our own building department. Is that the case in this jurisdiction and how we operate?
We are, I don't want to use the word exempt, but as you mentioned, we can serve as our own quality control and building department on facilities that are directly related to the conveyance of electric or power. So they have to be very operationally specific. Something like a district office or an administrative facility that isn't tied specifically to the delivery of services, we would have to be under subject of the, town building codes and provisions.
Okay, so the courtyard would definitely be a
Correct.
require town permit
Correct.
and oversight. Okay. All right. I don't think I have anything else, but like in that case, a water tank, a new 6170 tank would be, we would have control of that building process.
Correct.
Vendor?
Good questions. Our consultants are on the phone here, and I don't have a question for them, so I feel bad. Right. A lot of work, and I look forward to really getting this going and investing in the district. So looking at those numbers, Mike, that you presented earlier, water's a little lagging behind, so it's time to put some money in the ground, like Tony just said, and improve the system and keep moving water. And fixing leaks and.
Reliably.
Reliably, yes. So, looking forward to get this going, so thank you all for the effort. And this is a workshop.
Correct.
No action required, just to receive the information and give feedback. We've taken the feedback and we'll come back with a more formal item in the future meetings.
Great, starting May 18th. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, consultants.
Thank you. You.
Thank you.
Good night.
See, I just need to get back to the. Page 2. All right, that's the workshop. So now we have some routine business. Approve the treasurer's report, April 2022. We have the fund balances for month February 28th, 2022, and disbursements. Any
Public comment?
questions? Public comment?
Seeing none.
All right. Is there a motion to pay the bills that have already been paid, as Joe would say?
I'll move the treasurer's report of May 4th, 2022, for the fund balances for the month of February 28th, 2022, and the disbursements for the month of March 31st, 2022.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, Shauna, please.
Thank you, Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Liliotis.
Yes.
President Bender.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, that's it for the regular meeting. We'll now go into closed session. Item number 15, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, General Manager's Performance Plan Review. All right, thank you, everyone.
noches.